Plato who said, "Let me write the songs of a nation, and I care not who writes its laws." Plato may have been the first to recognize the importance of music in the growth of a nation. He wasn't writing about America, but he could have been. We're getting ready to celebrate our 200th birthday, and music has been with us every step of the way. Every event, every experience, every emotion, every cause in our history has found its voice in song. In this hour, we'll sample some of that music. We'll tell part of the story of the United States. And it's a story that actually begins with a song. Yankee Doodle came to town riding on a pony. It was the British who first made the song popular, and they sang it to make fun of the American soldiers. Yankee was a Cherokee word meaning coward, and doodle was an old traditional word for dummy. They also made fun of the way in which the revolutionary troops were dressed. Macaroni was the current term for the decoration on a soldier's uniform. Well, in World War II, it was called scrambled eggs. Well, then it was called macaroni. So they sang, "Stuck a feather in his hat and called it macaroni." The Revolutionary War began to the tune of Yankee Doodle. The British troops were singing it as they marched to Lexington in 1775. The war also ended to the tune of Yankee Doodle, but by now the Americans had adopted it, and it was the American Army Band that played Yankee Doodle as the British soldiers laid down their arms at Yorktown. The Redcoats had also changed their tune. As the British surrendered, their band played a quaint old English melody, appropriately entitled, "The World Turned Upside Down." If buttercups buzzed after the bee, if boats were on land and churches on sea, if ponies rode men and the grass ate the cows, if cats could be chased into holes by a mouse, if the mamas sold their babies to the gypsies for half a crown, if summer was spring and the other way round, then all of the world would be upside down. If buttercups buzzed after the bee, and if boats were on land and churches on sea, I'll play it again, Uncle Sam.
Lyric writing is American, pure American, and it's every American's almost birthright to be a lyric writer.
Hey, no matter how interesting a story is, there's no story that can't be more interesting by putting it to music.
The blues, like, are something that is here, you know? I mean, it's like, that's really very pure music. The blues will always be here.
There are two ways of writing the history of a country. One is writing it down in a book, and the other is singing it with songs.
Folk music gives a varied picture of America as it's growing, the sad, the happy, the absurd.
Songs played an important role throughout the American Revolutionary crisis. They were often learned by word of mouth, but they were also printed in the newspapers of the day. Songs were written to convey news of battles, to celebrate triumphs, and poke fun at the enemy. But mostly they were sung to keep morale high, to arouse the courage of the men and women involved in that struggle for independence and national identity.
You know, the tunes were still basically traditional ones from the old country, but the words were becoming unmistakably American.
That's right. For example, in 1800, an old Irish jig tune became one of our first and most popular campaign songs, and it helped sweep Thomas Jefferson into office as our third president.
Rejoice, Columbia sons, rejoice, to pirates never been the news, but join with heart and soul and voice for Jefferson and liberty. The gloomy night before us lies a reign of terror. Now is over its bags, inquisitors and spies. Its herds of harpies are no more. Rejoice, rejoice, to tyrants never bend the knee. But join with heart and soul and voice for Jefferson and liberty.
No lordly care with gorging jaws shall wring from industry the food, no fiery pagans' holy laws lay waste our fields and streets in blood.
Rejoice, Columbia sons, rejoice, to tyrants never bend the knee, but join with heart and soul and voice for Jefferson and liberty.
Here strangers from 1,000 shores, compelled by tyranny to roam, shall find amidst abundant stores a nobler and a happier home.
Rejoice, Columbia sons, rejoice, to tyrants never bend the knee, but join with heart and soul and voice for Jefferson and liberty.
Here art shall lift her laureled head, wealth, industry, and peace divine, and where dark pathless forests spread, rich fields and lofty cities shine.
Rejoice, Columbia sons, rejoice, to tyrants never bend the knee, but join with heart and soul and voice for Jefferson and liberty. Rejoice, Columbia sons, rejoice, to tyrants never bend the knee, but join with heart and soul and voice for Jefferson and liberty. Rejoice, Columbia sons, rejoice, to tyrants never bend the knee, but join with heart and soul and voice for Jefferson.
The last gasp of that revolutionary spirit actually manifested itself as the War of 1812. It was an unwise war for both sides. The English had their hands full with Napoleon, and the Americans simply were not prepared to fight another war.
But by the time it was over, the war had given us an important sense of independence, and it proved we could make it on our own. The war also gave us a very important song. The tune came from an old English drinking song. The words came from a lawyer, Francis Scott Key, as he watched the defense of Fort McHenry against the British bombardment of Baltimore.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light?
The words were symbolic both of the struggles that had gone before and determination that was to come. It was time for expansion and stability. America was now free to pursue its trade and commerce around the globe, and many young men were lured by the sea.
It's ironic that such a difficult life as a sailor's would have given us such a rich collection of songs and sea shanties. But singing was important to the sailors. Their songs made their work go a little easier. They found they didn't tire as quickly if they did their work steadily and with a certain rhythm. There was no accompaniment except the stomping of feet on decks to accentuate the beat. Whether they were pulling on the oars, tugging at the riggings, or hauling in that heavy old anchor, this rhythm allowed the whole group to pull together as one. The lead singer would sing out the lead line and set the tempo for work, and the others would join in the chorus.
Those are all in pawn. Go down, you blood-red roses, go down. And it's mighty drafty round Cape Horn. Go down, you blood-red roses, go down. Oh, you pinks and posies, go down, you blood-red roses, go down. Oh, you pinks and posies, go down, you blood-red roses, go down. You've had your advance and to sea must go. Go down, you blood-red roses, go down. Chasing whales through the frost and snow. Go down, you blood-red roses, go down. Oh, you pinks and posies, go down, you blood-red roses, go down. Oh, you pinks and posies, go down, you blood-red roses, go down. My old mother, she wrote to me, go down, you blood-red roses, go down. My dearest son, come home from sea, go down, you blood-red roses, go down. Oh, you pinks and posies, go down, you blood-red roses, go down. Oh, you pinks and posies, go down, you blood-red roses, go down. But around Cape Horn we all must go. Go down, you blood-red roses, go down. Round Cape Horn through the ice and snow. Go down, you blood-red roses, go down. Oh, you pinks and posies, go down, you blood-red roses, go down. Oh, you pinks and posies, go down, you blood-red roses, go down.
One of the major achievements of the American merchant marine in this period of time was the transportation of over 4 million immigrants to this country. They came from Germany, Scandinavia, Scotland, Ireland, and mostly from the British Isles.
Yeah.
And never in history had so many people been moved in such a short time.
Yeah, but you know, really, the trip back then took 2 or 3, even 4 weeks.
Oh, that's a month, and they didn't have any shuffleboard.
No movies and tourist class.
So all those people were together on that boat for so long, they had nothing to do but one thing, and they did.
They sang songs.
They also sang songs, and here is one. Here's one of those songs, and this is a Scottish song. It's actually not a sea song, but it's one of the songs they used to sing when they were coming over on that trip. The farmer was plowing his field one day. Rightful, rightful, tiddy-fi-day. The farmer was plowing his field one day when the devil came up and to him he did say, with a rightful law, tiddy-fi-day, rightful, rightful, tiddy-fi-day. Say, hear me, good man, I have come for your wife. Rightful, rightful, tiddy-fi-day. Say, hear me, good man, I have come for your wife, for she is the bane and torment of your life, with a rightful law, tiddy-fi-day, rightful, rightful, tiddy-fi-day. Are you sure we should sing that?
What, rightful, rightful, tiddy-fi-day?
It's okay, it sounds better when you say it.
Oh.
Anyway, this is a song that, see what happened, the devil took his wife and put her down in hell, but she caused so much problems that he brought her back to the farmer. One of the things she did while she was down in hell, one verse goes, there were 2 little devils with ball and chain, rightful, rightful, tiddy-fi-day. She raised back her foot and kicked in their brains, and the devil got pushed out of shape, so he brings back the wife to the farmer, and he says, the devil says to the farmer, here is your wife, both sound and well, rightful, rightful, tiddy-fi-day. Here is your wife, both sound and well, I can't keep her there, she's messing up hell with a rightful law, tiddy-fi-day, rightful, rightful, tiddy-fi-day.
Now, there's a moral to this story.
Yeah, we hope.
This proves that
Go ahead.
This proves that women are better than men.
Not the way you started.
This proves that women are better than men.
Rightful, rightful, tiddy-fi-day.
This proves that women are better than men. They can all go to hell,
but they'll come back again with a rightful law, tiddy-fi-day. Rightful, rightful, tiddy-fi-day, with a rightful law, tiddy-fi-day. Rightful, rightful, tiddy-fi-day. Sometimes they'd sing that 1,500 times coming over here. You know, many of the immigrants joined in the Western movement, the pioneer movement, and they brought these songs with them. There were songs from the New Englanders and their hymns, the Baptists and their songs, and they were added to the plantation songs.
of the black slaves.
That's right. There was very few white slaves, so most of the black slave songs became more popular. There were also Indian war chants, risque songs of the occasional French fur trader.
It was kind of like a melting pot, really, of music. Everything was...
Everything came together, and it ended up rock and roll. Many of the pioneers were drawn to California and Oregon by the prospect of the quick dollar and furs and timber and precious metals like gold and silver. The rest were drawn by the most powerful magnet of all, new land and a virgin frontier. But like the men of the sea, the pioneers of the 1840s soon realized that there were harsh realities in their dreams. The glamour was short-lived, as they discovered that frontiering was a brutal battle with the elements, with the Indians, and with disease. These men found that clearing the continent was a costly business, but the pioneer women also paid their share. The scouring of pots, the building of fires, the tending of livestock soon cost a young woman her beauty, her youth, sometimes even her sanity, and romance was often replaced by disillusionment between husband and wife.
When I was single, I dressed up so fine. Now I am married, I go ragged all the time. Lord, I wish I was a single girl again. When I was single, my shoes, they did scream. Now I am married, Lord, and all they do is leave. Lord, I wish I was a single girl again. I remember back east how it used to be. At my door there were boys from the town, linen and lace, carriages of grace. How I wish the time could turn itself around. Three little babies crying for bread, nothing to give them, and I'd rather be dead. Lord, I wish I was a single girl again. Dishes to wash, spring to go to. When you are married, girls, you got it all to do. Lord, I wish I was a single girl again. I remember back east how it used to be. At my door there were boys from the town, linen and lace, carriages of grace. Oh, how I wish that time could turn itself around. When I was single, I lived at my ease. Now I am married, I got a man I have to please. Lord, I wish I was a single girl again. Oh Lord, I wish, Lord, I wish I was single. I wish I was single. Oh, I wish I was single again. I wish I was single. Lord, Lord.
By 1830, America was home for some 13 million people. Perhaps no one has ever recognized the value of that home more poetically than John Howard Payne. Born in New York City, Payne became a popular child actor, but by the age of 22, the novelty of his youth had worn off. He left for London to seek fame in the English theater, and he began a new career as a writer. Payne then moved on to Paris, where he experienced the kind of homesickness for America that so many immigrants have felt for the old country when they've arrived here. This loneliness was eventually to inspire the first internationally popular American song, Home Sweet Home. Before he wrote the song, Payne tried to express his feelings in a letter to his brother. He said, "My yearnings toward home become stronger as the term of my exile lengthens. I long to see your faces and hear your voices. I long for a home about me."
Mid pleasures and palaces, though we may roam, be it ever so humble, there's no place like home. A charm from the skies seems to hallow us there, which seek through the world is ne'er met with elsewhere. Home, home, sweet, sweet home. There's no place like home. Oh, there's no place like home. There's no place like home.
That is such a lovely song, Hank, you know? And
Mm-hmm.
it's even more moving when you know the story behind it.
Yeah. There's another story about that song. There was this lawyer in Oklahoma years ago who was defending this client of his who was up for a bank robbery charge. And in order to dramatize his client's unfortunate background and his troubles, you know, through life, as his final plea, this lawyer sang Home Sweet Home to the jury. Yeah?
Did it work?
No, the guy got life.
Oh, he must not have been a very good singer.
Well, he may not have been, but this just kind of demonstrates how really popular that song was, you know? In fact, years later in his diary, Payne commented on the popularity of this song. And he wrote, "How often have I been in the heart of Paris, Berlin, London, or some other city, and have heard persons singing or hand organs playing Home Sweet Home, and me without a shilling to buy myself the next meal or place to lay my head. The world has literally sung my song until every heart is familiar with its melody, yet I have been a wanderer from my boyhood." Payne died in Tunis in 1852, far from home and with no friend or relative at his bedside. 31 years later, his remains were transferred to Washington and reinterred in Oak Hill Cemetery with President Chester Arthur forming part of the cortege. John Howard Payne was home at last.
From the 1830s on, the American musical stage expanded rapidly. Professional concert artists and family performing troupes traveled throughout the country. And from this environment, there emerged one uniquely American entertainment form. They were white men, trying to look and sound like black men.
Say, Mr. Interlocutor, you know, I done gave my girl a fine engagement ring just last week.
Well, that was nice of you, Mr. Bones. I presume all her girlfriends admired it?
Admired it? Man, 4 of them done recognized it.
Tell me, Mr. Bones, did you ask that girl's father for her hand?
I sure did. He said, go ahead. Take the one that's always in my pocket.
Say, Mr. Tambo, I hear that you just got married. And here I thought that you was the fella who said he wouldn't marry the most beautiful girl in the world.
Yeah, well, I didn't either.
I understand that your wife is pretty even-tempered.
That's right. She mad all the time.
Mr. Tambo stood at one end, Mr. Bones at the other. The rest of the group was gathered in the semicircle, clapping and singing, with Mr. Interlocutor in the middle. Together they performed a fast-moving program of jokes, songs, and dances, known as the Minstrel Show. A man by the name of Thomas Daddy Rice was the first to start the blackface tradition. He augmented his variety act by impersonating a Negro singer he had observed on the street. He even borrowed the man's clothes. And then he changed his song to a song and dance, and he called it Jump Jim Crow. The new song became so popular that it led to many others being done in the Negro dialect. By the 1840s, minstrel shows had spread to virtually every part of the country. And as they flourished, they were in constant need of new material to perform. Now, thanks to the minstrels, there was a great demand for songwriting on the professional level. And this demand marks the first widespread composition of original American melodies to go with the lyrics. Many young composers answered the call of the minstrel shows, and one of them became perhaps our most popular songwriter ever. Stephen Collins Foster was born, appropriately enough, on the 4th of July in 1826 in Lawrenceville, Pennsylvania. He had no formal musical training,
But when he was 19 years old, he began writing for the minstrel shows. All told, he wrote over 200 songs.
Do-da, do-da, get the whiskers from the song, go do-da day. Going run all night, going run all day. Let my money up to let somebody else pay. Oh, Susanna, don't you cry for me. I come from Alabama with a banjo on my knee. Oh, Susanna, don't you cry for me. I come from Alabama with a banjo on my knee.
Foster would be so proud of you. You know, really, though, he was such a talented composer, and he was such a terrible businessman. He really was. For instance, you know the song, Way Down Upon the Swanee River? Well, you know, he sold that song for $15. And then he gave away 2 other songs, Oh, Susanna and Uncle Ned, just to a friend as a gift. And that friend made over $10,000 from those songs. And all the while, he was only earning about $1,400 a year. And when he first started writing Old Folks at Home, he had never been any farther south than the Ohio River. So he asked his brother to give him some help in finding the name of a river down south that only had 2 syllables. So his brother suggested the Petey River, and he tried. It was way down upon the Petey River. That was not too good. So then he had another suggestion. He gave that a try. It was way down upon the Yazoo River. And that was really silly. So finally they just looked on a map of Florida, and they found the name of a river that they really liked. That had a nice ring to it, and it was way down upon the Swanee River, far, far away. And that's how the song was born. And it really became one of the most popular songs probably ever written. And yet, as popular as Stephen Foster's songs were with people all over the world, he spent the last 4 years of his life just alone and friendless in a small hotel in the Bowery in New York City. And he was broke. He had no money at all. He was very sick. He was an alcoholic. And in the end, he didn't even have enough money to buy music paper, so he used to use scraps of brown wrapping paper he'd pick up in bars. He died at the very young age of 38 in a charity ward of a New York hospital. And in his pocket, they found 38 cents and a note that he had written that said, "Dear friends and gentle hearts." And just before he died, a few days before, Stephen Foster wrote his last song. And in a way, it's almost as if he were writing his own epitaph. Beautiful dreamer, wake unto me. Starlight and dewdrops are waiting for thee. Gone are the rude sounds heard in the day. Lulled by the moonlight have all passed away. Beautiful dreamer, he of my song, list while I woo thee with soft melody. Gone are the cares of life's busy throng. Beautiful dreamer, awake unto me. Beautiful dreamer, awake unto me.
This is the South Carolina State House in the capital city of Columbia. It was here in Columbia on November 13th, 1860, that the state legislators called the meeting that led to South Carolina becoming the first state to secede from the Union. 5 months later, the Civil War was underway. It's ironic that Dixie, one of the favorite songs of the South, was actually written by a Northerner, a man named Dan Emmett from Mount Vernon, Ohio. He was also a famous minstrel, and he wrote The Blue-Tailed Fly and Old Dan Tucker. In his original version of Dixie, the name Dixie didn't refer to the Mason-Dixon line at all, or any other place in the South for that matter. Dixie was actually a farm on Long Island, owned by a man named Mr. Dix. The farm was worked like a southern plantation, but the Negroes were free and well paid for their services, and Dixie's land became synonymous with heaven in the minds of its Negro workers. I wish I was in Dixie, away, away. In Dixie's land I'll take my stand.
to live and die in Dixie. While the Confederate Army was marching to the tune of Dixie, written by a Northerner, the Union Army was marching to a Southern melody, also known as the Battle Hymn of the Republic. It was originally a Sunday school hymn written by William Steff in Charleston, South Carolina, and it went, "Say, brothers, will you meet us?" It was not until the winter of 1861 that the poetess Julia Ward Howe heard the tune, liked it, and wrote the words to the Battle Hymn of the Republic. In the months following the first shots of Fort Sumter, the Union Army blockaded the flow of imported consumer goods to the South, meaning that the Southerners either had to make things for themselves or go without. Many women began weaving homespun fabrics, and this symbolic act of dedication was an encouragement to their fighting men. One young Southern girl wrote a letter to her lover in General Lee's army. In it, she enclosed a piece of fabric and the words to a song. Oh, yes, I am a Southern girl and glory in the name. I boast of it with greater pride than glittering wealth or fame. I envy not the Northern girl, her robes are beauty rare, though diamonds deck her snowy neck and pearls bestud her hair. Hurrah, hurrah, for the sunny South so dear. 3 cheers for the homespun dress the Southern ladies wear. Now Northern goods are out of date, and since old Abe's blockade, we Southern girls can be content with goods the Southerns made. We scorn to wear a bit of silk, a bit of Northern lace, but make our homespun dresses up and wear them with a grace. Hurrah, hurrah, for the sunny South so dear. 3 cheers for the homespun dress the Southern ladies wear. And now, young man, a word for you. If you would win the fair, go to the field where honor calls and win your lady there. Remember that our bravest smiles are for the true and brave, and that our tears are all for those who fill a soldier's grave. Hurrah, hurrah, for the sunny South so dear. 3 cheers for the homespun dress the Southern ladies wear. The story of the Civil War can quite literally be told through its songs, because each battle produced at least one major song. In fact, there were over 2,000 songs written in the first year alone. But the real story of the Civil War was the freedom of the blacks from slavery. Theoretically, when the war ended in 1865, the black man was finally free to be his own master and provide for himself and his family. But in reality, the economy of the South was still controlled by a handful of whites, and this doomed the Negro to a role of continued subordination and inferiority.
And the blacks live in drafty shacks like this one here, you know, and they pick cotton from sunup to sundown. And they sang the work song, you know, songs to pass the time, you know, a day in the fields. And songs like this next one, you know, Hola, pick a bale of cotton. Huh. Hola, pick a bale of day. Huh. And these work songs were for the day. You know, they provided an escape into the spiritual land, you know. Mm-hmm. But there were the other songs, the ones for the night, you know, the deep song, the personal song, you know. Songs that, you know, deal with the misery, you know, the humiliation, the hardship and injustice.
That was really the birth of the blues, then.
You could say that. You could say that. But they weren't pushed through no horn either.
Oh, yeah?
You know, not for the first time. They started right out here on, you know, the guitar, with the guitar and the voice, you know. The Southern blues singer work out on the guitar, you know, they work simple accompaniment. So the guitar became a second voice. And the first blues singers were country people. Wandered from place to place, and they sang about what they saw, about, you know, some sang for a living, some sang about traveling around looking for a job, some sang about women, faithful women, unfaithful women, good women, bad women, women they'd like to know, you know, stuff like that. You know, there was a lot of suffering songs too, and but a lot of the songs had a note of hope in them, you know. And that's something, somewhere will come along, you know, there will be a better day. Well, I'm ragged and hungry and I'm dirty too. I'm ragged, I'm broke and I'm hungry too. If I clean up, mama, can I stay all night with you? Well, I'm motherless, fatherless, sisterless, brotherless too. Fatherless, sisterless, brotherless too. That's why I try so hard to make this trip with you. Well, I'm gonna leave if I don't walk that line. I'm gonna leave if I have to ride in line. You can just remember one thing, baby, I don't know, I don't mind dying. Well, down the road, down the road, down the road, down the road somewhere. Down the road, down the road, down the road somewhere. I'm gonna find me a good woman, I won't roam no more.
To most black men, the boundaries of America were the boundaries of a plantation or a labor camp. But a whole new America was being pioneered by cowboys and settlers on the western plains in Wyoming, Montana, Nebraska, Colorado, Oklahoma, and Texas. The settlers came to farm. They had few material possessions, and many brought only their religious beliefs. It was faith and the singing of hymns that kept these families together and helped frontier communities through the tough winters. Nevertheless, when it came time for socializing and recreation, these religious convictions sometimes got in the way. To the Baptists, Methodists, and Presbyterians, the fiddle was considered an instrument of the devil, and dancing was forbidden altogether.
Flies in the buttermilk, shoot, fly, shoot. Flies in the buttermilk, shoot, fly, shoot. Flies in the buttermilk, shoot, fly, shoot. Skip to a little, my darling. Lost my partner, what'll I do? Lost my partner.
However, there was nothing in the church doctrines that prohibited the skipping and singing games of the children, and the adults soon took to these games as a means of social recreation to replace dancing. Too much close contact would be a no-no, but swinging one another by the hand was fine. These gatherings were held regularly. They were called play parties, and many of our well-known children's folk songs owe their original popularity to these play parties. The families who came to the West would persevere and survive. But the day of the cowboy had come and gone in a flash. By 1890, railway lines linked the cattle kingdom to the industrial populations of the East.
This meant that the long cattle drive was no longer necessary, and neither was the cowboy. Gone were the days of open grazing. The buffalo had been exterminated, and the Indians were broken and swept onto reservations. Industrialization had proceeded with breathtaking speed. By 1900, the United States had forged to the top as the world's greatest industrial power. Millions of immigrants flooded into America from Russia, Poland, and the Ukraine in search of jobs and a new life. But organized labor had reached only 1 worker in 7, and many were cruelly exploited. They lived in poverty and worked under deplorable conditions in dangerous mines, mills, and factories. Nevertheless, as in any society anywhere, at any time, there were the haves as well as the have-nots. Men like Morgan, Rockefeller, Carnegie, and Vanderbilt made millions from the efforts of the American workers in the Industrial Revolution. The success of these giants changed the course of American business practice. They found that promotion, mass production, merchandising, and slick salesmanship were the keys to a successful business operation. They had made their fortune in oil, steel, and in the railroads, but their philosophy also spread to the area of music, and music, too, became big business. Sammy Cahn is one of the most successful and consistent songwriters of the 20th century. Hits like All of Me, The Second Time Around, Love and Marriage, and Call Me Irresponsible. It seems to me I've heard that song before. It's from an old familiar score. I know it well, that melody.
You know, by the time I came along in the 30s, music was pretty well established as a big business. It really started out around the turn of the century, but publishers took the example of the successful industrialists. The publishers figured, after all, why not sell songs to the public just like any other commercial product? So they started grinding out songs. Most of the commercial composing and publishing took place in the area of New York City that became known as Tin Pan Alley.
You know, I think people would like to know what comes first, the music or the words?
Well, that's easy. The phone call. That comes first all the time. The phone rings and someone says, will you write a song like? Will you write a song for? Will you write a song that does this, about? And that's what started. I used to, when I started out, I used to write songs just to write songs, but it later on became an absolute, you know, business. And
it's like being commissioned then.
Absolutely.
Sense,
That's exactly, I like that. But back in those early days, the more successful publishers usually hired song pluggers to go out to the restaurants, clubs, theaters, and virtually bribe musicians to perform and popularize their songs.
Did you used to have to plug your own songs?
That's all I ever did, and I believe that's why I write songs, so I can plug them. In the early days, there used to be a man called Arthur Piantadosi in the Brill Building. And we used to go to see him every day, Saul Kaplan and I, every day. We used to sing him a song, and every day he turned the song down. And Saul Chaplin, who was a lot brighter than I am, said to me after 6 months, why do we keep going back there? I said, that's easy. He lets us in. And while they were out selling their own songs, these song pluggers were also on the lookout for other songs or musical styles, which they could then commercialize and sell to the public on a mass scale.
It was in this manner that Tin Pan Alley became aware of one of the most revolutionary musical forces ever to come out of America. It was called ragtime. It had been around since the 1880s, mostly in basement bars and red light districts of small towns, along the Missouri and Mississippi rivers, in St. Louis and New Orleans. Ragtime was basically piano music, but there was nothing basic about the way in which it was played by the boss men of ragtime, like Jelly Roll Morton, Fats Waller, and the king of ragtime, Scott Joplin. It was then up to Tin Pan Alley to introduce ragtime in commercial form to the American public at large. And it happened in 1910 with a song by one of Tin Pan Alley's greatest composers, Irving Berlin. Come on here, Alexander's ragtime band. Come on here, it's the best band in the land.
No one danced much before 1910, but the infectious beat of Alexander's ragtime band was irresistible, and the dance craze was born. For several years to come, music was written to be danced to first and to be sung second. There was the two-step and the cakewalk. Then came other rowdier innovations like the kangaroo dip, the bunny hug, and the turkey trot. Many newspapers across the country charged that ragtime and its dances were demoralizing the young. In Paterson, New Jersey, a young woman got a 50-day prison sentence for dancing the turkey trot. And in 1914, the turkey trot got its official disapproval from the Vatican. The age of technology was shaping a new world for the 20th century. Travel became easier and faster because of the automobile and the airplane. But the influence of technology did not stop there. It wasn't long before it helped change the entire world of music. This is a recording of the voice of Thomas Edison as he recorded it on a tin-foil cylinder in 1877.
Mary had a little lamb, its fleece was white as snow, and everywhere that Mary went, the lamb was sure to go.
One wonders if Edison could possibly have realized that when he invented the phonograph, he was inventing perhaps the most important musical instrument ever created. This is a 1908 Victrola. By 1920, the sales of phonograph players climbed well over the 500,000 mark. By 1930, 2 families in every 5 had a radio. And the world of music has never been the same since.
The demand for comedy material was suddenly tremendous because radio gobbled up material at an incredible rate. And the same thing was happening with music, only even more so, because you had radio and recordings. Popular music became part of the everyday life of the average American because suddenly one song could reach millions of people simultaneously and become a big hit overnight.
Also, before the days of instant mass communication, the singer's identity was known only to those who could see him in person, and only the song could reach the masses and become popular throughout the country.
And now radio and recordings were making it possible for the singers and musicians to become celebrities. There was Rudy Vallee, the first crooner, and the dean of radio bandmen, the king of jazz, Paul Whiteman, Benny Goodman, the king of swing, the ever-dramatic Jessica Dragonet had one of radio's largest and most ardent followings. And now that singers could be famous, they could also get the girls. And some guys needed all the help they could get. For others, it was enough just to be handsome and funny. Kate Smith was known as the songbird of the South. She had a great hold on the public and sold over $39 million in war bonds in World War II. And the Andrews sisters gave the boys something to write home about. We knew that songs had always been able to reflect and influence the times, but now the people who sang them were also able to influence the times, and in their own ways, these performers affected the social habits, fashions, and opinions of all Americans.
In the 2 centuries since Yankee Doodle, there have been a lot of songs written in this country. Last year alone, there were over 90,000 new tunes written, compared to about 607 federal laws. Symphono Mazisa Sapolita. That's Greek for right on. Some songs just get better with age. We hear them again and they're fresh. We should take them off the shelves and sing them out, give them life, because a good song then is a good song now.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, Miss Gloria Loring.
Play it again, Uncle Sam. Come on, we want to hear that song. You got to play it again, Uncle Sam. Your children want to sing along. There are books that'll tell you the story of America, the people and the glory. 200 years and going strong. But if you want to go back in time and really see the country through the people's eyes, everything's right there in their songs. Yeah, come on. You want to play it again, Uncle Sam. You want to hear that song, you want to play it again, Uncle Sam. Just want to sing along. Well, Sam, it's a long, hard road you traveled that's brought you here where we stand today. You've been watching over us all along, and on that morning when
terrific. Thank you. I'll tell you, I've got a very pretty song for you that was very popular back in 1838, and it's about a drinking man who knows his death is not very far off, and his name is Rosin the Bow. In the gay round of pleasure I've traveled, nor will I behind leave a foe. And when my companions are jovial, they will drink to old Rosin the Bow. But my life is now drawn to a closing, and all will at last be so. So we'll take a full bumper at parting to the name of old Rosin the Bow. And Thomas Moore also wrote another beautiful song that was popular about that time, and it too was about growing old gracefully. Believe me, if all those endearing young charms which I gaze on so fondly today were to fade by the morrow and fleet in my arms like fairy gifts fading away, thou would still be adored as this moment thou art. Let thy loveliness fade as it will, and around the dear ruin each wish of my heart would entwine itself verdantly still. Ooh. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. You know, back in the leap year of 1804, the talk in Washington was about the Aaron Burr-Alexander Hamilton duel, and also about the work that Noah Webster was doing on his dictionary. But there was also some talk about an attractive young singer who was appearing at the Washington Theater, and about the bold leap year song she was singing. Well, here I am, and what of that? I think I hear you cry. Why, I am coming, that is pat, to sell if you will buy. A female auctioneer I stand, and not to sell myself. Oh no, the lot I have on hand is now to sell myself. Who bids for me? Who bids? Who bids for me? Who bids? Who bids for me? Who bids? I'm going, for I am going. Ye bachelors, I look at you, and pray don't think me rude, nor rate me as a scold or shrew, a coquette or a prude. My heart and hand I offer fair, and should you buy the lot, I'm sure we'll make a happy pair when someone ties the knot. Who bids for me? Who bids? Who bids for me? Who bids? Who bids for me? Who bids? I'm going. Going once? Going twice? Though some may deem me pert, those words cut like a knife. Pray, where's the girl I'd like to know would not become a wife? At least I own I really could, in spite of all alarms. Won't some dear bachelor come and take me in his arms? Well, gentlemen, I'm waiting. Who bids for me? Who bids? Who bids for me? Who bids? Who bids for me? Who bids? I'm going. Going once? Going twice? Won't anybody bid? Sold to nobody. Thank you. I'm not too lucky tonight, am I? Thank you. Thank you. You know, there was another woman who made a much more significant contribution to our musical heritage. It was kind of near the end of the century, and the woman's name was Catherine Lee Bates. She took a trip from Chicago to Colorado, and on that trip, she saw for the first time the Western Mountains and the Grand Canyon, and she was inspired to write one of our most beautiful songs. Oh, beautiful for space.